Hey everyone, welcome to the May 1st edition of Northwest Quadrant Wealth Management's e-news. We're about 60% of the way through earnings season here. Close to 300 companies of the S&P 500 have reported. And the one thing that sums up earnings season so far is significantly better than expectations. Analysts have been anticipating about a 6% decline in earnings. Earnings are coming in about 2% to the negative side year on year. So significantly better than expectations, but also better than expectations on the revenue side. More than 80% of companies are surprising to the upside, which, remember what we always talk about, which is when you lower the bar, it's easy to jump over it. But one of the things that's really important to understand is consumer discretionary names are absolutely crushing it. Starbucks and Chipotle come to mind. Pepsi's another one that reported, and Amazon, of course, surprised to the upside last week. But that also tells another story, which is a lot of these names are increasing prices pretty dramatically. I cite Unilever as a great example. Kimberly-Clark is another one. 10% price increases are basically across the board. Volumes are actually declining, however, in some of these names. About 2% volume decline. So consumers are paying up, but volumes are decreasing slightly. And what that means is that, this is a story that ultimately is a duration story. It's what we've been talking about since the commencement of 2023, basically, but it's taking longer to materialize than anyone had reasonably anticipated at the beginning of the year. And I think that's majorly a function of net income. Consumer net income is higher on a real basis than it was at the beginning of the year, and savings are also significantly higher, still about $4 trillion above that 2020 trend line, and that's taking longer than anyone expected to be spent down, and that's filtering into earnings. We still have a bunch of major names to report, but so far, no signs of recession, just a mild earnings recession here in 2023.
And the reason we were talking about earnings is obviously the ultimate driver of stock price is earnings, right? If a company continues to grow earnings out into the future, their stock price is going to trade higher accordingly. And so earnings are very important to the ultimate direction of stock prices. And it's also the reason that the stock market is up, if you measure by the S&P, about 7% on a year-to-date basis, because the earnings recession we thought we would be in right now isn't really materializing, which gets us to the Federal Reserve. And so the Fed has an interest rate decision coming out on Wednesday. Most likely the Fed will raise rates by another quarter of a basis point, 25 basis points. But the real question is what the Fed says in the press conference afterwards for the continued direction of interest rates. Are they going to keep raising? Are they going to pause? That's really what the market is waiting for, is what the Fed is going to do next after this rate hike on Wednesday. But when we look at it, the wealth effect is sort of back in vogue, and that means, if your 401k is back up in value and your house price is doing okay, that generally makes people spend, which causes more inflation. And so we still feel like the Federal Reserve has a lot more work to do as it relates to interest rates and taming inflation. But I guess time will tell on Wednesday is going to be a big decision factor for where the next sort of move, higher or lower, in the market is. But ultimately, like Josh said, we've been talking all along that this is going to be a duration story. It's going to probably take longer than we thought, and now we think it's even going to take even longer. We're probably looking at 2024 before we can look at any sort of bottom as it relates to the economy, at least, and that's probably late in 2024. So, as always, if you have questions about your situation, your account, give our office a call. The number here is 800-743-0988, or you can either email one of us, Tyler or Josh, at northwestquadrantwealth.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.